sticking around. I am very excited to introduce our next speaker. This is Lindsey Mask of Ladies America. She is the founding director of Ladies America, a national network of professional women connecting to advance one another personally and professionally. She's the CEO of Mask Media Company, a national expert on education and technology, advocacy, and business. With over 3,000 top-tier professional women in DC, New York, North Carolina, Texas, Pittsburgh, go Steelers, Los Angeles, Virginia Beach, and San Francisco. She served as the communications director and spokesperson for the U.S. Congressman Howard P. McKean of California, where she handled national and local media. She was featured on Washington Life magazine as a top thought leader under 40. Congratulations. Very excited to introduce Lindsey Mask.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I walk around, so I just want to make sure I know what I'm getting into if I move too much. But I was in an airport literally all night with a 5-hour layover in San Francisco, and just to be here with each of you and to be here with Patty, who is a mentor to me and to our organization and has helped us to inspire other women within our organization. But I remember I was literally laying on the ground and I was tired, and I found this quote about the burden of, there are two pains that we go through. One is this burden of discipline, and the other one is the burden of regret. And I was laying there and I was thinking, the burden of discipline is so light compared to the burden of regret. And I don't regret a minute of any time that I spend at an airport, the countless hours of sleep that we lose. I think as women, we really push ourselves very hard to achieve things and to achieve things for a purpose. And they're pulling up my presentation, but I say this a lot, because starting a national organization for women, it seems so hokey at times, and I often feel like, man, it would be so much easier if I were trying to help the poor or feed the hungry, because it makes sense. It's an easy thing to say to people. But telling people you're trying to connect women around the world and to explain the impact of that and why you think it's important, it's sometimes difficult, it's challenging, and it sounds silly, and it feels like I have to work so much harder to explain the point. But I truly do believe that women connected in cities across the United States, where we have all these resources and all the opportunity in the world, that eventually we can lend a stronger hand, a united hand, to women in developing countries. So if my presentation makes it up, and if it doesn't, that's fine. But there's a great quote by the Dalai Lama that I use, and I hadn't seen it for years before I actually was working on the work that I am doing with women, and it was this. Perfect timing. The world will be saved by the Western woman. And I say, I would amend this quote to say the world will be saved by the Western woman if united. And so I have had this almost manic desire and sort of moral obligation to try to connect women across the country. And little known fact, Ladies America, which is our national organization, which started at a dinner table as Ladies Dinner Club, grew into Ladies DC by accident, then went to New York, then LA, then San Francisco, and it's continued on to where we have 11 cities now. But our actual name is Ladies International Foundation. We're doing business as Ladies America. But it is because we have a long-term vision and long-term goals. But I truly believe in women in the United States truly connecting and educating one another and strengthening and uniting. Because I think we've probably all experienced women not uniting behind us. I just tell my story. I was the average American girl. This was a family photo from when I was a little kid. I'm on the right. That's my little brother and my sister. We grew up in a small town in Texas. This is it on the top left. There wasn't a single stoplight, a single stop sign. There was really nothing. But there was a railroad building. And this railroad building was used to paint happy birthday, congratulations, happy anniversary, all sorts of great accolades, and everyone who would drive to work or get, on the bus to school would see this railroad building. And multiple stories have been written about this building because it's actually grown in size exponentially based on paint, layers and layers and layers of paint. And so at the time, all I ever wanted was my name to be painted on the railroad building. Every day, I was like, my birthday would come, and I would just, oh, please let my name be on the railroad building, and it wasn't, right? Eventually it was, and probably multiple times. But what I learned through that experience in hindsight, is that there's always another railroad building, right? It's never good enough. It always felt like it wasn't good enough. So then I was off trying to make my way in the world, finding that next railroad building, and I always wanted to be Oprah Winfrey. So I went into the news, just as Oprah Winfrey did. And I don't know, can you play this clip? This is really highly embarrassing, humiliating actually, but this is a station that was a real station in Michigan, an ABC affiliate, and it's a clip. Maybe not. You nod for me, tell me, so nope, won't work. But it's a clip from when I was a news anchor, and it looks like something out of a small high school station, so it's a little silly. But I moved from doing news into politics because I'd always had this desire to help change the world. And I thought that the best way for me to do it was communicating through a mass medium. And I found I wasn't actually able to make any change, but I did see who was making the change while I was doing news, and it was all political. Everything was politics. So while I had no background in politics, I moved myself back to Texas and went to the State House for the first time ever for my first interview, and just knew I was going to get a job there. And I don't know if you know Texas very well, but it's the good old boys club. So I still don't know how I ended up getting a job there, but it took me into about 10 years of working in politics, several years at the state level, to where I found this. And it was a really hard thing for me. I was fired from my second political job. So I was new, I didn't have the connections, I didn't have the confidence because I didn't know exactly what I was doing, and it was like blood in the water. And there was a misunderstanding, but a general inability for me to connect with the women in my office and the women in that space. And so while I could drone on about having gone through a negative experience, what I really took away from it, and it took me a couple of years to understand, is that I had failed to establish good relationships with the women in that space. And it wasn't going to be their fault because I can't change anything that they do. It was somehow the burden was on me. And how can I figure this out? So when I moved to DC, that's all I was trying to do. So I invited 5 women. Those are the first 5 women I invited to a dinner table and just wanted to figure out, how do I connect with them? It was the most selfish experiment you could possibly do. It's a little bit like a puppeteer. Can you come to a table and I'm just going to experiment and figure out how to talk with you? I can't even tell you that I've come up with an answer to that question necessarily, but what I did learn is we were all looking for the same thing. So that's how Ladies Dinner Club accidentally became Ladies DC. Thank you. Which is now this. Oh, Ladies America. Wow, I didn't even realize that would move. They've already described to you what it is, but it has just continued to grow, and it absolutely fascinates me, and we get to laugh about things like this. Does the wage gap mean that women get to leave work 23% early today, which would be great based on our pay? So we laugh and we have fun, but we attack major issues. So we focus on mentorship, which is very important, education, in technology, advocacy, and business. And I know technology is a large part of what you guys are all doing here today. And then just trying to explain what a network truly is. It's not some, sleazy back room sliding of cards, but rather it's something really unique. It's something that's a trusted network. It's a trusted environment, and it's a place for people to truly grow. What we learned over time was there was this GEM report that was done, And this is when I really, really started feeling this calling to work with women in other countries. Can you stop it for a second? Thank you. And it was that of 10 things that they found in their STEM study in developing countries, at the top of the list of things that they said that they needed, it was a network. In like the top quarter, I think it was number 3. And that's when it really hit me how powerful a network is and how we take it for granted. Because quite literally, we could all walk outside, bump into someone at a bus stop, walking down the street, and bring them into the fold of our work and somehow find a way to collaborate with one another. But that's not available to everyone around the country, around the world. And knowing that placed such a value on what we had and could we open that circle and offer it to others. And I always use this quote. It's Bobby Kennedy. It was read at his funeral by Teddy Kennedy, and so it's often misunderstood that they were actually his words, and you probably all heard it, but it's my all-time favorite speech. And it shows me, it sort of encapsulates what I think, that maybe each one of us doesn't have what it's going to take to change, to bend history, to change the course of history, but together we send forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. That together, truly focused on the same values, we can change anything. And we've seen it at all levels within our organization. And this is my funny little diagram of connections and just how they grow, and it's so organic. So I say, who am I to connect women around the globe? Who am I to do that? And then I realized I was answering this question myself when I first made this presentation, and then who am I not to, right? Who are we all not to? So I know we're tight on time. I just rushed through. I'm happy to answer any questions, but thank you so much for having me, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.